Hello and welcome to your Astro Tarot forecast for the week of March 10th through the 16th. Welcome. This is our first subscribers only weekly forecast since I started doing these. I will have little snippets of these that are available on social media, but for the most part, if you are currently a subscriber, if you decide to opt in as a subscriber, this is your reading because that's the energy that I'm reading in on. So those that are subscribers are heavily influencing the cards, the energy, the things that I interpret from the stars. So welcome and thank you so much for being a subscriber to this blog. And if you like it, share the word, spread the word, because even though it's a very isolated and personalized reading when it's a smaller group, I would love to grow this community. So thank you for being here and welcome to a week of drama. So this is going to be interpreted in different ways for different people. And I can feel even with our smaller group here, it's going to go on different tangents as far as how this energy plays out. So for some, it's going to be more career oriented. Some it's going to be more relationship oriented. And some it's going to be inwardly reflective. But this week is about some stirring of the pot, honestly. Like it feels like... honestly, the imagery I'm getting, because we know that I get messages from the universe through pop culture imagery, and it's the ants on Practical Magic kind of like meddling in people's love lives. So it does feel like a very love-based reading for someone in particular, just because of the cards that came out for this week. But again, apply that to your life, how it works. If you're currently in a very stabilized relationship where there's not a lot of drama going on, it could be your internal relationship with yourself, or it could be a co-working relationship as well that's got some drama coming in. But all that said, it's all good shifts. Like the drama that's coming up this week is helping us to really solidify what it is that we want. So as Abraham Hicks, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, will always say, when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And so this week is about the universe showing us maybe some things that we don't want from our connections. And through that, because we are very proactive and spiritually aware individuals, we then can flip the coin to the other side and know what we do want. And rather than being defeated by the fact that we are being presented with something we don't want, we can then utilize the new information we have about what we do want to go after it. So I hope that this is going to align with you. I definitely feel like there's going to be big shifts because we do have an eclipse coming up this week. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to that day. And as usual, we're going to start with our cards. We've got cards and astrology for every day of the week, Monday through Sunday. And then we've got earth, air, fire, water, goddess cards to help kind of give you a little bit of divine assistance in whatever it is that you're working on this week. So we're going to dive in for Monday. So Monday, which is actually not the day that I'm recording this, so I'm kind of feeling into the future energy today, is not marked by a huge move in astrology, but it does have a very big card because our card of the day for Monday is the Devil card. And that is major arcana. It's also major energy. We're tackling some major things in our lives that we are really stirring up the dirt at the bottom of the pool so that it can be filtered out. So the Devil card is always about feeling trapped in a situation that you actually have more power than you're letting yourself see. So if you're trapped in a relationship that feels like you can't get out and it's toxic and it's just not working for you, this is a message that's saying you actually can walk away whenever you want. Same thing for a toxic work environment, or if you have a toxic pattern within yourself that you're working on that you feel like is just like who you are and you define yourself by that. This is a message that you can actually transform yourself and walk away from anything that's not healthy for you. So Monday's coming in already with some big, heavier energy, but I feel like it's going to be more in the form of insights rather than action. So as I said, this is about a week of observing what it is that you don't want so that you know what you do want. And something's coming up on Monday to show you an addictive cycle in your life that's unhealthy, an unhealthy pattern that you keep repeating that can be transformed. but it's going to probably come through in a way that feels a little uncomfortable. For the relationship, it might be a big drama that happens between two people. Same for a work environment, there might be something dramatic that happens. For the inwardly reflective energy, which I feel like is a few of us, actually, maybe the majority of us watching this video, it could be an addictive pattern that finally starts to feel uncomfortable to you. I know I can speak for myself in my own life. I've been working very, very hard around breaking down addictive patterns when it comes to social media and just my habits around it. It's not necessarily that the actual act of being on social media is toxic. It's like, do I wake up in the morning and automatically put on YouTube because that's just what I'm used to? And can I better serve myself by being more aligned with what it is that I need that morning and letting it be kind of a case by case basis? So that's my share for this devil card. And I'm sure that that's probably going to come up for me a little bit bigger on Monday. So it could be something you're already working on. As I said, I've been working on that pattern for a while, but I still have days that it kind of gets to me. And actually, this morning was one of those days. I got a little too involved with my online life before I did my meditations and my journaling, and it kind of got me in a little funk. So I think I'm already getting a preview of Monday's energy today so that I can hopefully tackle it even stronger tomorrow. And again, it could show up in interpersonal relationships. It could be that a person in your life is being toxic and you need to walk away from them, or it could be that a pattern you've established with that relationship is toxic. It doesn't necessarily have to be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You could be still keeping the relationship, but letting yourself let go of a toxic pattern. So again, I don't get the feeling that Monday is about taking a lot of action around this. It's about observing. So really become an observer of your unhealthy patterns and addictions on Monday, so that as we move further into the week and closer to the eclipse, we can really start to clear that energy out of our life and reestablish healthier patterns. So moving into Tuesday, we do have some astrology happening. We have Mercury conjunct Venus. So that feels like it goes really beautifully with our cards. So I'm going to talk about both of them at once. Our card is the Queen of Cups reversed. So again, I like to read reverse energies as kind of an inwardly reflective energy rather than a negative aspect of the card. And Mercury conjunct Venus tells us that there's going to be a beautiful little union of Mercury and Venus in the sky. Like they're helping each other out. They're lining up in the sky. And so this just basically lets both of them intensify the other's energy. Mercury is the planet of communication. Venus is the planet of love, beauty, and also creativity, like art and expression. So Queen of Cups reverse is telling me that on this particular day, we are communicating something around our love emotions or around our creativity and our expression of beauty, but we're doing it inwardly. We're kind of keeping it a little more to ourselves. So if this is something that's reflected in an external relationship, you might be kind of working on drafts of a love letter or something that you want to say to a loved one. Perhaps you're revealing a crush. Again, it's more inwardly reflective. This isn't necessarily the day. Well, you could have the conversation today, but because of our card being reversed, it feels more like you're getting your words in order. You're getting your thoughts in order. You're really figuring out what it is that you want to say. And you're still utilizing that powerful Mercury-Venus union and letting yourself feel very clear with the way that you communicate your emotions or your creativity, but you're doing it for you first. You're getting the draft of the speech ready. And then later on in the week, there might be more opportunity to actually share that with the world. So in the regards to creativity, this could be that you are creating something, you are writing a book draft, you're, working on a piece of art, and it's not necessarily something that you're going to share with the world right now, but you are using that union of clarity and communication to be able to use it to your advantage, to be able to have more clarity around creating whatever it is that you want to express. So that's Tuesday the 11th. Wednesday the 12th, we have a Saturn Cazimi. And again, this is all Central Time. I think for the most part, most of the US, this is also going to be Central Time. It happens at 5:28. Oh, I have written down PM, but I have it at the beginning of the day. So I don't know if it's happening in the evening and I put it in the wrong spot on my calendar, or if it was happening in the morning and I accidentally put PM. So I'll put a note down below if that's going to be in the early morning or in the evening. But regardless, for most of us, it's on Wednesday. And Wednesday the 12th, we also have the Nine of Swords reversed. So I'm not going to lie. This is heavier energy for the day, both with Saturn and with the Nine of Swords. Saturn is our teacher planet. It's the planet that teaches us life's big lessons. That's why your Saturn return feels so intense, because it's about making sure that you've learned the lessons that you're meant to thus far in life. So Nine of Swords is about really like getting in your head about stuff and kind of over evaluating these lessons. However, with it turned in reverse, this is already kind of an inwardly reflective card. So the energy I'm feeling off of this reversed energy is that it's either that we're doing this sort of like review of our lessons during Saturn Cazimi with another person, or it's that we're a little less in our head about it. Like, it's not so negative. So this is one that I am going to kind of maybe read as the reverse meaning, because it normally comes through as kind of a negative energy. Reversed, it could be a little softer. Or transversely, again, it could be that it's less inwardly reflective and more exteriorly reflective, because we're taking something that's normally internal and turning it on its head. So if you get the opportunity to do sort of like a study session or a review session with someone in your life. And again, this is probably not going to be in regards to an actual class or test, but like as far as like the test of life and the lessons that we have in life, it might be a good day for therapy. And in particular, it's a good day to just dive in on your own. The moon is out in the daylight outside my window, so I feel like that's meaningful, but we'll get to that in a second. To dive in on your own and really take note of the lessons that you've learned over the past 6 months, 6 years, however far back you want to take it. Saturn is currently in Pisces. So whatever house Pisces is in your chart, and again, I think we've discussed this in previous readings, you can figure that out with the whole house sign aspect, which is one of 2 ways to read your houses, by knowing your rising sign and counting that as 1 and going around the chart and figuring out what number Pisces is. And then you can just Google X number house and see what that rules. I'm going to tell you that the houses earlier on in the numbers, so like 1 through 7, are a little easier to interpret because they kind of talk about simpler concepts. And then from like 8 on, there kind of becomes like a little more broader meaning to the houses, and it becomes a little harder to try and figure out where it lands in your life. Case in point, Saturn is currently Venus, which we're going to get to in a day, is currently in my 8th house. And that's really hard for me to figure out where that's going to hit in my life, because it's death, other people's money, sex, psychology, like there's all kinds of topics after the 7th house. But from the 7th house back, you can usually kind of look it up and be like, oh, that's the area that I'm currently working on and reviewing the lessons in life. So do a little, like I said, life review, lesson review, especially in regards to wherever Pisces hits as far as the houses go. And let it be something that you're either being light about, like lightening up about. That also could be the Nine of Swords reverse, and that like it might feel like heavier energy, but we're being called to make light of it. I'm getting a feeling that for someone, it's calling back to me my own experience of writing satire and taking something. When they say that you write satire, you either take something you think is really funny or something that's really makes you angry, and you write satire about it and you make it a joke. And so if there's something that's really pissing you off or something that feels really heavy coming through with your Saturn Cazimi life review, I think it would be a good exercise to make a joke from it. Like, and that doesn't mean that you don't still like feel angry or feel a certain way about it, but you see the humor in it. Like, find the humor in whatever it is that's happened, even if it's just the ridiculousness of how much you've learned, and let yourself have a little laugh of like how ridiculous it is that you've had so many lessons crammed into such a short amount of time, and that you've grown so much, and that you went through so much, and now here you are. So there's a little levity that wants to come through on Wednesday. As we move into Thursday, now, depending on where you are in the world, Thursday may get some of the Virgo full moon energy. It kind of creeps into Friday for those of us Central Time and Eastern Time. If you're on the West Coast in America or further that direction in time zones, it might be in on Thursday. Yeah, that's the direction that it goes. My mind had to like do that compute. Anyway, my mind had to compute that for a second. But for my time zone and anyone the eastern direction of Chicago, it's happening on Thursday. Or it happens on Friday. So Thursday's astrology is relatively quiet. And quite frankly, we're all going to probably feel it a little bit on both sides, because full moon energy tends to affect about 48 hours prior to the actual full moon and about 48 hours after. So just know that you might be feeling the full moon early, but for the most part, Thursday is a quiet astrology. And then the card of Thursday is the Two of Cups reversed. So the Two of Cups is a beautiful little card. It's a coming together of a friendship, a collaboration, a relationship. It's kind of sweet. And I mean, even this card image is super sweet because it's two little kittens on the card in between two little roses. So it's a very sweet, soft, sometimes romantic, sometimes creative, sometimes just friendly relationship coming through. When it's reversed, I'm getting an energy of a little bit of drama. If it's coming as a romantic relationship, I don't know why I'm reading this. This is not traditional interpretation. It's the energy I'm getting off the card. I'm getting it might have some sort of third-party messiness. I'm not necessarily getting the feeling that someone is coming through and trying to start an affair. Like, they may not actually be in another relationship, but there's something in that area that feels messy. So it could be that they just recently got out of a relationship and that person still has feelings for them. It could be that they are just, it feels like, here's the read I'm getting. So regardless if it's romantic, if it's friendship, if it's business, with Venus retrograde kind of bringing back around some of our past relationships and having us reevaluate some of that energy, whether it be in physical form or just mentally in our minds, there's an energy of some sort of past connection being pulled into this connection that's coming together or being presented to you on Thursday. And I think that could be from both sides. So if it's coming through as a romantic relationship, you might be encountering someone that is a potential partner, but something about each other reminds you of like past partners, and that's a little triggering. And the lesson and the objective here is to not project your past circumstances onto a new connection. Again, whether it's romantic, business, or platonic. But also to be mindful that those presences are always going to affect what's moving forward. So your lesson in regards to what you're bringing into the connection is don't project past wounds, past relationship drama onto someone who's supposed to be a clean slate. Like, let them be a clean slate. But also remember that just like you're bringing that drama into this connection from your past and trying to release it, they're also doing that. And so there's a feeling of recognizing that it's never just the two people in the relationship in the room, especially past a certain dating experience and age. We're always bringing a lot of our past experiences in with us and holding space for that. And also putting boundaries around that. Like, if there's something, like, I'm getting the imagery around, like, again, apply it to whatever kind of relationship applies here. But it's like if a new dating relationship comes together and that person still has photos of their ex all over their home. And that could be something that you make peace with, but it might be something you have to have a discussion about and like figure out what the motive is behind that and what's going on there. And it also could be something that if it does feel like it's coming from an unhealthy place, like they're still carrying a torch for that person, or there's some sort of like ickiness to them having those photos out, that's not based on your own triggers, but based on like their intentions. It could be something that you set a boundary and you're like, hey, this doesn't feel healthy. If you want to continue this behavior, if you want to continue this connection, I'm going to have to separate myself from the situation. That's very involved. That actually happened to a friend of mine that I think was kind of both in that scenario. I think it was that person the friend of mine was being a little too triggered by the presence of these photos. And then the person they were getting in a relationship also needed to create a little more boundaries and cleansing of that past energy. So it's like, if they had 12 photos up, maybe they should have just had like 2 photos up based on how the relationship should have been. And there was just a little extra presence of that past relationship in the room. So that's the romantic storyline, but it also can be applied to business partnerships, friendships, recognizing that we're all bringing our baggage into the situation and we need to do our best to not project our baggage onto someone and also hold space and be kind to people that are kind of dealing with that same process. And ideally, both of you will come together in this healthier place where you're doing the work to not project onto each other and also like recognizing when triggers come up that you can like heal and cleanse stuff from your past. Again, I told you it's going to be a drama week. So that is Thursday. And if you're in an area of the world that Thursday is also the Virgo full moon, that also makes sense. So moving into the pinnacle, what do they call it? The arc, the climax. Moving into the climax of the week and potentially part of the climax of the month. On Friday, some places, Thursday, we have the Virgo full moon eclipse. Eclipses are beautiful energy for drastically clearing out stuff from your life that doesn't belong there. But they're not always that comfortable. So we're going to be real gentle with ourselves whenever there's an eclipse at play. And most sort of witchy, new age, magical practitioners will tell you not to do a lot of magic around this full moon, because moons are a great time for magic normally. With it being a full moon, it's already kind of about cleansing. So this one's a little less of a like don't do magic than like a new moon, because new moon we're usually trying to call stuff in. And when you call stuff in on an eclipse, it does get funky. I can tell you from experience that I did some relationship manifestations around a full moon eclipse before I realized that that was not something that I should do. And it did call in a relationship, but it was kind of not exactly what I was going for. And so this is definitely, again, with the full moon, we're being a little softer. Later in the month, we will have a new moon eclipse. So you're not going to do any manifesting magic on the new moon this month. For the full moon, you can do some cleansing work because that's already going to want to happen with both a full moon and an eclipse. I would just not maybe don't charge your crystals. Maybe don't make any moon water. I've been making it a monthly ritual that I charge some moon water and like put just a dose of it in my smoothies every morning. I'm not going to do that underneath an eclipse moon just to be safe. Or be really strict about your intentions for the stuff that you're charging with the eclipse energy. If you do want to bring a little chaos, a little shake up into your life, maybe that is part of what you're doing. And particularly if it relates to wherever Virgo is in your houses. So again, take your rising sign as 1, clock around it, whatever number Virgo comes up as, take that as what you're working on most and the area of your life that might be most affected by this eclipse. So again, I was talking about the houses being a little harder to interpret after 7, and my Virgo is in my 8th house. And again, like I said, the 8th house is like death and sex and taxes and other people's money and psychology. And it's like, these things don't always go together really well. So how am I supposed to figure out what area of my life it's going to affect? So do your best to figure out what's kind of feeling like it's kind of in upheaval and being shook up underneath this full moon eclipse. And if you do want to do like a talisman or something charged with the energy to kind of make a little chaos there, this feels a little like, here's what I'll say about charging something underneath this full moon energy. If you work with crystals, or if you don't work with crystals, I'm going to give you an explanation. There's a crystal called, I feel like I'm going to butcher the name. Again, I'll put it down below if I get this wrong, but I think it's Maldite. And it was really big around social media and TikTok around 2019, 2020. Like people got real into getting like jewelry and pieces of this particular type of crystal. And it was because it was known to completely clear out of your life anything that wasn't serving your highest self, but in like not a comfortable way. Like it was like a tower card moment where like if you were in the wrong job, you would get this crystal, you would wear it, you would get fired from the job. Like it was like sudden, instant, really quick acting. And there were people on social media like sharing their crazy stories of what this crystal did to their life. And most of them were really upset about it because if you're not in a place that you're ready to heal stuff and evaluate the things that aren't working in your life, big change towards your highest path can feel really uncomfortable and you can feel like a victim in that situation. And that's why I'm not a fan of victim mentality, because you're always in charge. You're always can shift the energy. So this feels like that type of energy. So if you want a Maldite or whatever the crystal is called, I feel like I'm getting it slightly wrong. I think there's another syllable in there. So I'll put it below. If you want that type of energy where it's like, really hardcore, we're going to clear stuff out of your life and we want to really intensify that with some sort of talisman, then you can charge the Virgo full moon eclipse energy into a crystal or a piece of jewelry. Again, if you don't know how to charge things, you're just literally setting it on a windowsill in the moonlight. But only if you want that really intense help. And you got to be ready for it. Like it'll clear stuff out that's not working. And sometimes that means that it's stuff that you didn't want cleared out because you weren't ready to let go of it. So be mindful of that. And also, even if you don't charge a talisman with that energy, it might happen under the full moon anyway, but we're just going to make it extra intense if you have sort of like a charm that you're wearing with that. Okay, so our card, I haven't even gotten to our card, is the Two of Swords. So the Two of Swords is kind of that energy of being caught between a rock and a hard place. Like you've got two choices and there's not a clear direction as to which one is right and which one is wrong. And unlike the Two of Wands, which we've talked about previously, the two of Wands usually, I think we talked about it last week. Two of Wands is usually like you don't really have a wrong choice, but there's one that's going to feel more passionate. Two of Swords, it kind of does feel like not to be dramatic because it's not always literally life and death situation, but it kind of feels more like a life and death situation. Like it feels like if you choose wrong, you're gonna it's like some sort of like weird action Indiana Jones movie type thing where it's like if you choose the wrong door or the wrong thing, you're gonna get hit by like a swinging axe. Like that's what Two of Swords energy kind of feels like. So I feel like underneath the Virgo full moon eclipse, we're going to be presented with a choice that feels a little dramatic in that way. It feels like a sort of life and death scenario. I don't think it's literally life and death for most of us, but to be dramatic with it, we would say that in conversation, basically. I like the fact that it's upright? I mean, if it was reversed, I would maybe say that it was less of a hard choice or you've already made the choice. I do like the fact that this particular deck, it feels softer. And it does feel like it could potentially be a conflict within a relationship because we do have these two individuals on either side of the sword. And I actually don't even see, there's only one sword on this card. Ooh, I'm getting an interpretation coming through right now based on that observation. So normally it's the Two of Swords. So there's two swords on it. This one, I think they're counting the two people as the two in this. and then they've got a single sword. So I'm going to tell us this to make this feel like a little easier energy. Because this card only has one sword, I'm also going to read it as a Ace of Swords, which means that within this hard choice, there's a clear truth that's being revealed. Because the Ace of Swords is like a strike of brilliance, a brilliant idea, a truth being revealed to you, and it's sudden. So I think that this eclipse is really, again, that really chaotic, like life-changing energy, really quick action energy is coming through with a truth. And I think it might be in regards to some sort of interpersonal relationship, perhaps the one that we were just evaluating the day before. There's a truth that comes forward that activates a choice that feels like a really dramatic choice. This could be to end a relationship. It could be to, I'm going to leave it up to interpretation. I'm not going to go through all the lists, but like this does feel like it's calling forward a chaos that reveals a truth that does create a choice. But I do think the choice is going to be less difficult based on the fact that this card only has one sword on it. Whereas normally I'd say that it's a really difficult choice. You feel like you're caught between a rock and a hard place. And this one, I'm saying that you still have that feeling, but there is an element of truth hidden within the choice that you can find. And I think honestly that comes from allowing yourself time to pull back and see things from a bigger perspective. Because sometimes when you're in a relationship conflict, it feels like you can't see things clearly. You're kind of caught up in your energy, you're caught up in their energy, and you're caught up in like whatever vision for that relationship you had in your mind. And this kind of feels like a moment of like, let's pull back. Let's examine the whole situation, the whole arc of the situation. And I think it's fitting that we just evaluated our Saturn life review type lessons early on in the week, because this is like, okay, we know what it looks like when we pull back and we look at the lessons we've learned in life. How did those lessons influence, affect, or inform this conflict, this choice that we have to make? And there's some seed element of truth from that we're taking into this that's going to make the choice easier. It's going to make it feel like there's one part that is a lot clearly the right choice. And it may not be the choice that you think you want, is what I'm getting from this. So I'm holding space for you. I'm holding space for all of us because I'm going to be encountering this energy as well. Know that you don't necessarily have to take action on the day of the eclipse. And I would actually give it a couple days to take action on this choice. But you are going to be presented with the fact that you do need to make a choice on Friday or around the eclipse. Whew! Moving into Saturday. We need a weekend after all that, right? Saturday, I hate to tell you this, but Mercury's going retrograde. So right after this, big evaluation of life and lessons and relationships and addictive patterns and presented with this difficult choice that we need to make this week, we then have Mercury go retrograde, which means that communication is going to get a little more difficult and transportation and technology might get a little funky as well. So again, like I said, I don't know that you need to take action right away on whatever this choice is, especially if it's making a hard conversation. But if you feel like you have to have that hard conversation sooner rather than later, then yes, please have it on Friday. It's still going to be funky because we're in a shadow period with Mercury retrograde. But if you're waiting even 24 hours, I would wait 3 weeks. Because when we get into the Mercury retrograde energy, it's going to be really hard to have those conversations and have them come out the way that you want them to and have the other person understand you in the way that you want them to. So navigate things gently. During our Mercury retrograde day, we have the 10 of Wands, which is an indicator that we are choosing a different path. That the path that we've been on is not working for our higher self and our ultimate goals in life. This one is a nice balance in the energy on this card, because we have this fire in the background that's like, we're burning it all down. The path we thought we wanted to go on is now completely burnt down to the ground. But through that choice, we find this little bit of peace. Because when you know that a path isn't for you, you can walk away with full confidence and clarity that you're making the right choice. So there's a bit of clarity that comes through on Saturday with Mercury retrograde that's telling us that it's time to walk away from something that we've been kind of fighting through the brush. So I always see the Ten of Wands as like if you're on a path in the woods and you've got like a machete and you're just hacking away at the brush to try and get through, and it keeps getting thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and like it becoming really hard and exhausting to try and hack through. So there's a path in your life that feels exhausting, that you've been trying to hack your way into for so long that it does feel really hard to let go of, because you're like, I've come this far. The end of the path has to be soon. But unlike the Nine of Wands that's telling us the end of the path is soon, the Ten of Wands is telling us that there's a reason that this path is so blocked for you. It is not your path. So the sooner you walk away, the sooner you open up the opportunity to find a really easy path. Because for what is meant for you will not pass you. But if you're trying to force yourself into a situation that's not meant for you, you will continue to be disappointed. So that is what we're evaluating over Mercury retrograde. Mercury is currently in Aries. So again, dealing with houses, whatever your rising sign is, count around the zodiac and figure out what Aries is. Whatever number that is, look up the house, figure out what area of your life this is going to work with. I'm just realizing it's working with my writing routines, which I've been working really hard on. And I have found like a better path. So hopefully I'm ahead of the game on this one. Yeah, but something that you've been doing is not working. And honestly, that actually helped me give another hit interpretation. The thing that isn't working may also relate back to your Devil card on Monday. Things connect. All right. Sunday, we get a little break from the astrology, but Mercury's still retrograde. Mercury's going to be retrograde for like 3 weeks. But there's no active planet movement that we're evaluating on Sunday. And get a little break with the cards because we get this gorgeous little cute Page of Pentacles that looks a little like Zoe. If you know, you know. So Page is a very softer energy. We're introducing ourselves into a new modality, and Pentacles is money, business, but also home and feeling grounded. So this is kind of reestablishing your feelings of security. That's honestly the best statement that I'm getting from this card, because I think it's going to be different areas of life for everyone. But across the board, no matter what it is, you're reestablishing your feelings of security, which makes sense after this card. Like after burning down a path that you've been working hard to go on, Sunday we're like, okay, let's regroup and figure out what makes us feel safe and secure and in align with our best path for abundance and further growth and further stability. So there's a little light at the end of the tunnel here. Okay, so that is the week of March 10th through the 16th. Little preview next week. We have a couple more Cazimis coming in. The sun's lining up with planets just like it did Saturn this week. So some intense energy there, and we have the sun moving into Aries. So lots of movement happening next week, which makes sense because it feels like this week was about reviewing, evaluating, and clearing. And then next week, we can start moving forward into this next chapter. So just know that this week may be a lot of heavy lifting, but we're going to reap the benefits moving into the next couple weeks. All right, that is our weekly cards. So we're going to move into our Earth, Air, Fire, Water from the Total Betty Goddess deck. Going to take a sip of tea. And Earth signs. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Your goddess for the week is Nike. Yes, the goddess that the actual brand is named after. And she is the goddess of winning. So this is a very competitive energy. She's played by Tracy Flick, Reese Witherspoon in the movie Election. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend it if you're working with competition energy. And it's kind of an energy of, first of all, the Nike slogan applies here. Just do it. If there's something in your life that you've been like trying to think that you want to move forward on and you haven't, like this is like pushing you into that like self-competitive energy is what I'm getting from this. So I can speak from my own experience for you earth signs, and I don't have a lot of earth in my chart, so this isn't necessarily about the card, but like one of the lessons that I've learned recently is that I do really well with achieving my goals if I make it a competition with myself. So one of the things that I've added to my writing routine is I have a program on my computer that I can set to lock down everything else, that I can only open up a typing page, and it will lock it all down until I write a specific number of words that I have selected at the beginning of the process. And there's something about that. I mean, granted, it gets out of the distractions, but I also am just like, yeah, I'm going to win this game. Watch me. I'll get to my YouTube videos yet. And I just like keep typing. So there's something about that here. And that like something in your goals in your life could use a little bit of like healthy, fun competition, even if you're competing with yourself or against a computer program. That's kind of what this energy is. So know that you are capable. Definitely, as earth signs, you're capable. You're very driven. You're very grounded. You can absolutely achieve your goals. And this is telling us that Nike is kind of on your side, kind of pushing you ahead. And there's an element of sort of, I'm getting like, this isn't that goddess, but I'm getting like Red Bull gives you wings. Or maybe it is. Maybe Nike and Hermes are related. But I'm getting Hermes, the god with the wings on his shoes, which is a messenger god. He's also Mercury. Interesting. Sorry, my brain's going through all the connections as I speak. So the god Mercury / Hermes, has sandals with wings on them. And he's a messenger, which is why Mercury messes with our messaging. But I'm getting that image coming into my head for Nike, and I don't, off the top of my head, remember if that's a symbol that's related to this goddess as well. But that might be an element that's coming through here too. There's an element of both the Mercury retrograde being important for this self-competition, and also, like I said, the slogan Red Bull gives you wings. I think competition gives you wings, or there's something in your life that gives you the gumption, the energy to be in this competitive nature. Hopefully it's not something unhealthy like, steroids or something like that. But there is something in your life that you can create with healthier habits, as we talked about with the Devil card, creating healthy habits as opposed to unhealthy habits, that can give you wings, that can help you feel like you're more ready for the competition that you're setting up for yourself. All right, Earth, air signs. Air signs, your card is Freya, played by Sarah Jessica Parker as Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City. This is a lovely energy to bring into this heavier week because she's just like, she's very Venus energy. So I know we have Venus retrograde energy, so don't do anything crazy with your aesthetic. Don't go get plastic surgery or get an extreme haircut that you're not ready to take the time to grow out. But she's very fun and flirty and very visually activated. So if you want to find a little bit of solace in this heavier week, this would be a good week to just do something with aesthetic that feels really lovely. So air signs, I forgot to mention, air signs are Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. So I'm an Aquarius rising. I'll definitely be taking the advice of this card. This is a card that's telling us to be visually stimulated by things. Be visually stimulated by clothes, by jewelry, by your environment, and also by pretty people around you. Again, we have some heavier relationship energy coming through, but we do have an indicator for some of us that there is a new relationship coming in. So, like, don't let the heaviness that we're working through, which is really more about our own issues and our own triggers, dampen the fact that you find someone attractive or charming or, whatever. So if it is a relationship-based thing for air signs, this is a really good one to just be like, enjoy flirting. And if it's not a relationship-based thing for you, enjoy the gorgeous, beautiful, vibrant things in your life. Like, I keep getting drawn to like all the pink that I have in my life as I'm talking about this. And this has pink on the card, so that makes sense. So I've got a pink top on, I got pink hair, I got the pink sun in the background, got a pink couch. And pink makes me feel very happy. It's an aesthetic that really speaks to my soul and makes me feel joyful. So whatever aesthetic things in your world or that you can bring more of into your world, this week is a good week for that. So if you need to like redecorate, paint a wall, like do something to shake up the visual stimuli in your life this week. Okay, from air signs into fire signs, we have Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and your card is Amphitrite. Never certain if I'm saying that right, but it's played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Seinfeld as Elaine Binnis. And her message is to dance your way to victory, dance like nobody's watching. The goddess herself is about winning a dance competition, so there's a lot of dance metaphors here. But again, and then the reason that Elaine, if you're a Seinfeld fan and you know the Little Kicks episode, dance as if you're not being judged by the rest of the world, and use that as a metaphor for whatever it is in your life that you need to find the courage to do unabashedly. So again, we did have an element earlier in the week of sort of working with some sort of like creative project that maybe you're not ready to share to the world, or some sort of like declaration of love that you're not ready to share to the world. And this is kind of like a feeling of like express yourself as if no one else's opinion mattered. And maybe you take baby steps to that and you start out with expressing yourself without showing anyone, and then you can do it knowing that no one's opinion matters because you're the only one that's viewing it. But even if you start sharing things with the world, do it as if nobody was watching. I'm having to take this advice for myself too. So my Venus and Leo and the fire in my chart is definitely listening. Shut off the internal social media camera in your mind, because you know that we all have those. Even when we're not actively sharing our life on social media, I feel like we all are filtering our life through the social media lens, because that's how we figure out what we want to share. And we're going to shut that off for a while. We're going to stop thinking about what the rest of the world would think about what's happening in our world, and we're going to just enjoy it to the utmost and in the silliest, most ridiculous way possible. So this is a good week to just turn on some music and dance atrociously around your apartment with no one watching. It's a good week to allow yourself the space to create, telling yourself that you never have to show anyone this thing that you're creating. And then who knows, maybe it'll be something you end up sharing, maybe it won't. But the point is to do the act as if your opinion is the only one that matters. And that's a good message for all of us. Okay, water signs. So Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Your card is Circe. I think I'm saying that one right, but I'm not certain. I'm a reader, not a talker when it comes to these mythology names. And she is interesting. I automatically got a really interesting correlation for her in regards to water signs, because she lives on an island surrounded by water. But she is the goddess of really cool manifesting and really powerful manifesting. So I know I just said that with eclipses, we're not going to do a lot of manifesting work. I think this is a reminder that you've already done a ton of manifesting work. So like, you don't have to be actively manifesting underneath the eclipse to still be calling in your manifestations. So this isn't so much about like creating new manifestations. It's about really steeping yourself in the manifestations that you've already started to establish. So this feels like it could be creating a vision board. Like I'm seeing like sort of like a Pinterest vision board of like all the dreams that you've already put out there in the world that you just really want to like intensify and solidify. And you want to create this beautiful visual stimuli of the stuff that's coming to you, because it is. because it's true. So if you accept that it's true and that it is coming to you, it will come. There's also an element here of allowing yourself the space. Again, we kind of talked about, like, we talked a little bit about social media addiction with my own story earlier, and it came up with our last card. And this kind of feels like pulling back into a little private oasis, as if you had your own little island, and creating the magic that you want to create separate from the outside world a little bit. So in my mind, the thing that's coming through, because this is how I view the social media hierarchy, Pinterest to me feels like a safe space, social media wise. Like, I never feel triggered by any of the content there. I always feel inspired by the things that pop up in my feed. The more that I add to my Pinterest boards, the more enjoyable it becomes. And so to me, in my mind, if I were to take this advice as a Cancer sun sign and a Pisces moon, I'm going to try and I'm going to try and distance myself a bit from social media, and then use things like Pinterest that doesn't feel like social media to me to maroon myself on an island of visual stimuli that's going to increase my abundance, my material wealth, my manifestations that I'm trying to call in, by creating new energy and new visuals around it. But again, they're older manifestations. There's stuff that you've been manifesting for a long time. As Abraham Hicks, as I've mentioned them twice in this. So if someone hasn't heard of Abraham Hicks, or if you haven't listened to Abraham Hicks in a while, that might be a sign that that's important this week. But as Abraham Hicks likes to say, you launch a rocket of desire, and then you just wait for it to come, like you wait for the effects to come back to you. So like every time you figure out what you don't want and you know what you do want, you launch a rocket of desire into the universe, and the universe is already working on those. So we don't have to sit down and figure out what we want. There's plenty of stuff we've already launched rockets, made a wish for, whatever you want to call it, in our past that we're waiting on. And I don't want to say still waiting on, because that makes it sound like we're getting impatient, but like we're just waiting on its arrival. You can also think of it, I like to think of it as like ordering a package online, and there's like a lag time between the time that you decide you want that thing and the time that it's actually in your hands. And so we're basically thinking of all of the manifestations that haven't come to us yet as ordered packages that are currently being shipped. And this week, we're kind of distancing ourselves onto our own little magic-making island, not being as influenced by the outside world's opinions and posts and, all of that. And we are really just like steeping ourselves in these daydreams about how good it's going to be when this package arrives. Yeah, that feels good. Okay, I'm glad that we cleared off some of the heavier energy of the week, so we do have some stuff to balance it out. Our goddesses are coming in to help us balance. Find the pleasure that you can this week, but also don't ignore the lessons that are coming up. Don't ignore the wounds that you're trying to heal with whatever relationships are triggering you. But know that it doesn't have to be all work and no play, because that makes Jack a dull boy. So we are going to make sure we find that balance, and just wait for Sunday when things start to feel like they're stabilizing a little bit. That is our reading for the week. So again, I don't have a meditation for you, but I do want to take a moment to just take a deep breath in. And deep breath out. And just let something go that feels heavy. And know that it might come up during the week, but you can continue to release the things that aren't serving you and move towards your dreams. Happy week ahead. And I hope to see you again next week.